Every morning, millions of Americans enjoy a hot cup of coffee. Have you ever wondered what it takes to get that coffee into your cup? Whitney Manney sits down with the owner of a small Guatemalan coffee farm to find out.
Staying close to like the manual process, my dad picks every bean, he and the people that work with him on the farm. So whenever I spill a bean, I think about my dad who always, every time we work with the beans together, he talks about his grandpa who would say, que tienes que guardar cada grano, which is you have to save every grain. You can't let any grain go because every grain touched a hand.
Right. I'm so excited to learn more about Doña Fina today. Can you tell me a little bit about how you all started, what you all are about?
Doña Fina Cafe is coffee that comes from my family farm. We're a small, sustainable family coffee farm that's been in our family for about 120 years. My dad is the farmer.
My name is Erika Noguera. I am from Quesaltepeque, Guatemala. I used to be an engineer working here, but when I retired, my mom left me a piece of ground that came from my grandfather. And the coffee that we are producing, they call it Doña Fina. That was my grandmother's name.
My dad and I started working together to bring the coffee from the farm here to the States Green, where I roast it every week and get it to market as a way to share our farm and the fruits of the farm, and also talk about sustainability and fair trade in its truest sense here in the States.
You've created an ecosystem for Doña Fina with your dad in Guatemala on the farm, tending and taking care of everything, and then sending it to you where you are then roasting, packaging, getting it to the consumer. I can't even wrap my mind around farming coffee. What does that even look like? How does it grow?
It grows on a tree. It's a hardy plant, but the fruiting process is a really delicate process. Coffee grows in bunches. They're little coffee cherries. Each cherry holds 2 beans. Harvest happens once a year.
We want just only red bean, all right? We don't want between red and green or green. We want just red. This is the reason we have to pick it up by hand.
So we have 12,000 coffee trees on our farm, which is really not a big farm at all.
That sounds big.
It sounds big, and it's a lot of labor. We've estimated right now most of our trees, a whole tree will produce half a lata, which is like a 5-gallon bucket, maybe 3 pounds of coffee.
Okay.
So think about 12,000 trees producing just about half a bucket. The process for every cup of coffee is extremely labor intensive. It's a crop that has to be picked by hand. What makes our process slightly different is that oftentimes the coffee branch will be stripped of all the cherries. So they grow in a clump on each branch and they'll be stripped. But what we do is 3 cuts every year. And that just means that we go through and only pick the red cherries and leave the green or yellowing or peach colored ones on the tree so that they can continue maturing.
Because the plants mature in different, for some reason. I have a plant here that is already red and this one is still green.
And so this process of first cut will take a couple weeks, and then we'll be ready to go back to the beginning and do all those same trees another time, again, leaving anything that's green or peach colored on the tree, and then we'll go back one more time sometime in January, mid-January, to do the third cut. And so that ensures that we're giving each bean a chance to ripen on the branch.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so that plays a big part too in the flavor, I'm guessing, like what kind of flavor you're gonna get from the bean.
Yes.
If you give it time to actually mature.
A lot of your more bitter coffees were probably pulled a little too early.
So, and then we have a little machine. Then you put the coffee there, it does remove the peel. So what we do is we remove we call it meat. After we remove that, then we do the washing.
and they'll dump all of the picked cherries into big drums of water, and whatever floats to the top is taken away and reserved. So it could be, for whatever reason, the beans are more hollow or not as moist, or the fruits started rotting already, potentially, and so that gets put away and reserved. We don't throw it away. And then the beans are pulled like this, but they're still in a honey. It's called the honey fruit.
Oh.
There's another layer, and those again get washed, and whatever floats gets pulled aside. And then from there, the beans are let to sit overnight one more time, and then they're put out on patios to dry. The beans still have a hard, it's called parchment on the bean, and so from there it's taken to a machine. So most of these processes are hand done. There are aspects of the industry that are being taken over by machines. They're always gonna have to be picked by hand. Right now, this is kind of the slowest period when the beans are heating up. And then like I said, I keep track of everything, and I have set temperature gauges that I'm looking at. Somebody's probably gonna watch this and be like, she is so antiquated. I don't know. I think most.
But no, I think being able to have that still manual and hands-on aspect of it is so nice, because this is an art still. It's nice to be able to see how this comes together from start to finish.
It definitely, I feel closer to my dad. I feel closer to the whole process.
Right.
Back at the farm, it's been really fun.
Yeah.
For me.
Just listening to you explain that process, I am blown away with how labor intensive it is. I always thought that machinery was involved in the harvesting part of coffee, and I was so hands-on. These are people. People make coffee happen. And I think that's just so important for everyone to know. And also a big part of coffee happening, getting to the shelves, is location, right?
Yeah, that's right. It only grows in a ring around that equator, so it grows on multiple continents, but it's only a small range that will actually produce the fruits. And so I think as the climate changes, coffee is actually an endangered crop, and a lot of people don't know that or understand that, and we feel it every year. It's a major concern. As the globe warms, the coffee that grows just around the equator, just in that small zone, the zone gets smaller, and so it gets harder and harder to grow it. The plants will only fruit if they get the moisture it needs at the right time. So it's an issue of both amount of moisture, but also when is the moisture. The harvest happens once a year, but the trees need to be tended to year round. So we've implemented new pruning practices that are kinder. That's where the knowledge of agriculture and climate change and having scientifically backed best practices has really helped our farm.
So wanting to be as organic as possible, be sustainable in the sense of the plant itself as well as the workforce even, just being able to take care of everybody. I know I've heard the term fair trade a lot when it comes to coffee. What do you feel like is the ultimate definition of fair trade for Doña Fina?
I think the idea of fair trade is a noble one. It's acknowledging that this is a commodity crop that's being used for exploitation in a lot of aspects of the industry, and ensuring that the coffee you're buying is paying attention. I think what's happened in a similar way with the organic label is that it's become a label that you can almost pay for. And I don't want to say that about all companies, because I think that there are a lot of good companies that are trying to develop relationships with growers and are really wanting to do the right thing. I think it's an aspect of the industry that needs more light. I think it's more awareness, so it's really being more mindful of the whole supply chain. And so I think our motivation as a family is to tell that story, the whole story. Right. And we have the privilege to be able to honor each phase of the process, each stage of the process. Everything we do, we're trying to do it as close to the source. Our goal is not to be in big box stores. Our goal is to talk about the origin and the source and the whole system, the earth, the ground that grows it, the ecosystem of people that are part of this process.
Well, Erika, thank you so much for giving me an in-depth tour, giving me the scoop about coffee. I will never look at a cup of coffee the same again.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been an honor and a joy.